I've prayed prayers that didn't move a thing. And then I've prayed prayers that have changed timelines, outcomes, and systems. And the difference is not passion, the difference is understanding how faith actually works. You ever ask yourself, why did that prayer work, but this one didn't? Faith is not a feeling, it's a process. I'm going to walk you through 5 laws of faith you should always follow. Faith works because it puts you in a position where God can act. Everything I'm about to teach you is a story of Lazarus in John 11. Jesus didn't panic when he found out that Lazarus had died. He walked through a process of faith that ended up in Lazarus coming out of that tomb. So if you follow the same process, you're going to get the result. If Jesus followed an order, we don't get to skip it. The 5 laws of faith. And law number 1 is claiming. So faith established standing before anything moves. Standing is, do they have a right to bring a case before the judge? He who comes to God must believe that he is and that he is a rewarder. Before you pray, before you speak, before you even act, one question that you have to ask yourself, do I have the right to expect this from God? In John 11, Jesus said, this sickness is not unto death, but it's for the glory of God. Jesus was standing on that belief. He was claiming that. Before anyone can see a miracle, you have to settle the outcome internally. And that's what Jesus did. When I was facing foreclosure, the one thing I know from a judge, he doesn't move from emotions, he moves with emotion. And you need to know the law. I've been through all types of motions at him. For instance, one was standing that if I could break the chain of custody of the ownership of my property, I could have that property because then the person who would sue me had no standing because he wouldn't be the rightful person who had that mortgage or that deed. And that's the same thing that I'm talking about. That was one area. That's a legal term, is standing. What I used was the law. I bought the book on how to defend foreclosures. I took the arguments, I gave them to the judge, and it delayed my case for 4 years. At the end, I got a miraculous forgiveness of debt. I understood what the law meant. And you got to understand what moves God. You need to know the scriptures. In the scriptures. The second law is the law of declaring. Faith must enter speech or it collapses. Romans says, with the heart one believes and with the mouth confession is made. Your heart belief is the claiming of it, but your mouth confession is the declaring of it. Jesus in John 11, he said, your brother will rise again. That's what he said to Martha. Martha was grieving. Jesus didn't explain it. He just stated the position and he declared, your brother will rise again. And your faith is activated verbally. Your actions are activated verbally, and you have to declare. Imagine the most amazing declaration that goes like this. I bestow a degree on you. They make a declaration, and next year you have a degree. Foreclosures can't take it. The school is burned down, but you still have the degree. Why? Because it was declared in a verbal fashion. So there's a power. Wake up, acknowledge that power, and start speaking, declaring those verses upon your business, your life, your health. You'll see the change. In silence, there's a vacuum that's created. If you never state your position, the system assumes you have none. I was in court, and the judge would say to a family, do you want summary judgment, or do you want to get an attorney? You could have another 45 days. They said, give me summary judgment. Summary judgment means that there's a final judgment, and the sheriff's coming in 6 weeks. They decided to let the sheriff come in 6 weeks when they could have had at least another 45 days to work things out. Life works the same way. If you don't declare it, it's silent. If you don't declare it, nothing changes. Number 3 is the law of praise. Praise and agreement, then the matter is settled. Closes the case internally. You know that you won the case. Corinthians says, I believe and therefore I spoke. Jesus did it. He said in the prayer, Father, I thank you for that you heard me and that you always hear me. What if you started your prayer like that? Did you ever have that kind of prayer? Praise and agreement, then the matter is settled. Law number 4, you got to decree. Faith now speaks into the situation, is an exercise of authority through action. This is where you rise up and you speak to that situation. You say to this mountain, and there's not doubt in your heart, you'll have that answer. There could be no doubt in your heart. The standing is settled. Your speech is declared out. The results are going to come. The faith now speaks into the situation. You're not asking God for permission at this point. You already got the permission. He said, Lazarus, come forth. Authority is loud when it's real. Authority happens from within, and you have that authority. That authority being granted to you in the standing of the scriptures. That authority be granted to you in that declaration. That authority has been granted to you by you receiving it in praise, right? Law number 5 is joyful thanksgiving. Most breakthroughs are lost in the delay process. Faith holds the position until the results appear. Count it all joy when, not if, you fall into various trials. Faith holds the position until the results appear. And that's what it says in the scriptures. It says that's what produces patience and endurance. It says, Philippians 4:6, it says, with thanksgiving, make your requests to God, and the peace of God will guard your heart and mind. So there's thanksgiving in the request. And peace is not passivity. Peace is confidence without strain. Jesus turns around and he says, loose him and let him go. It's no surprise. It's calm authority. It's always steady after the miracle with these 5 laws. God builds reality on authority, order, and its cause and effect. And faith works because you restore a person to a proper process. Jesus didn't suspend reality. He operated in it perfectly. Claiming, establish standing. Declaring, it states your position. And praise, it closes the internal debate. Decreeing applies the authority, and thanksgiving sustains you through the period of pressure and time. And what you get out of that is endurance and patience and confidence. This year will reward people who understand how faith operates. Once you understand this, you stop begging life and you start engaging it, commanding it, you'll see your life change. This is Ben and Santana with Goldmine Business Academy. Never give up and always build up. And thanks again. Above all, let me know what your thoughts are.